I think it's time to say move over banana bread because these banana bars are maybe going to take your place. If you have bananas, this is a great thing to make because it is delicious, freezes well, and is really simple. Let's make some. Sometimes when we have bananas and we don't want to make banana bread, but we want to use up those wonderful brown sweet bananas, we make banana bars. So today is all about a simple banana bar, and it really is simple, and it's really just something that you can put together really quickly. This is something we made all the time growing up because they're a crowd pleaser, believe me, everyone loves these. So we're gonna start with some brown sugar. It's gonna be a mixture of brown sugar and granulated white sugar. So the brown sugar obviously adds those molasses notes, which give it almost like this caramely toffee undertone. Not so much that it just like sits there forward, but just is in the background. That's what I really like. Then we have granulated white sugar, and now we're just gonna add some butter. And this is what we're gonna like work together here. You know, this is really the base of how you start so many things when you're baking. And so it's a really simple course, but this is why it's great to do these recipes with kids or with maybe people that aren't as used to baking because they get you ready. So I'm gonna use a hand mixer. You could do it by hand, but this is gonna help it be a little bit lighter and fluffier with the help of a mixer. So turn it on and just start working it all together. So the creaming part is an important step, and it takes a little bit, a few more minutes maybe than you would think, because you actually want to start mixing together those sugars and incorporating them into that butter. It actually helps start slowly dissolving the sugar, aerating the butter. It gives a better crumb and texture. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna add in our egg to that mixture. We're gonna add in some beautiful vanilla. Vanilla is actually, to me, really important, no matter what you're making. But with banana, with so many things, it brings out such a beautiful note of what you're using. So yes, you're gonna notice the vanilla, but you're also gonna kind of notice more of those banana notes because of the vanilla. So when you're making anything banana-based, when it's a baking item like this, you want them to be nice and brown. The more brown they are, the more sugar content they have because they continue to gain that sugar content as they are ripening like this. So you wanna make sure you let them get really brown. Almost black, and look, once you open them, they still look good. If there's a few bruises, don't worry about that. I just take a fork and I quickly mash them up. They don't have to be perfect. If there's a little texture, it's okay. But mashing them to me is a really quick, simple step. Now, one thing you can do, if you have bananas that are going bad, you're not in the mood to bake, or you just don't want anything yet, you can either just peel them and put them in the freezer, pull them out, let them thaw and mash them, or you could even pre-mash them in measurements that you're gonna use, whether it's cup measurements, whatever, and then use it like that. So it can work in multiple ways. And what I do like to do is make sure and know how much I have, because you know what? The size of the banana, it varies all the time, and you cannot count on knowing what it's gonna be. And guess what? This is one of those times. So see, this is why I'm measuring. Look, that's not enough banana. So if you just count, when a recipe says just 1, 2 bananas, whatever it is, don't necessarily trust that. You wanna be able to have a measurement so you know how much banana you need, and that's gonna affect a measurement in a recipe. So all these things make a difference when you're doing it, but you can see it really takes no time just to be able to add that next one into it. So I'm gonna take this, I sometimes use a bench scraper to do it just because to me, that makes it really clean and simple. And the reason we love banana is some people think of it as a replacement for oil or other things, kind of like applesauce. Really, in this case, this is just a good way to enjoy something delicious in a delicious form. So we're gonna put it right into this mixture, and you can see now this is when really the base of the wet ingredients come together. So once that's all in the bowl, we can just mix that together. And this is a pretty quick step. You don't have to worry about the creaming. You're just making sure you break up that egg and get it all incorporated. Now, always after your wet ingredients are like this, don't feel worried or scared if it looks a little curdled. You see that look? That's just that it's not emulsified yet. So we're gonna now add our dry ingredients and it will all come together, which is really simple dry ingredients here. We have flour, and always when I do my flour, you see me do this, I scoop it and I overfill and then I just swipe it off. So if you weigh your flour, you're gonna be more accurate, but a way to be more accurate when you're just using dry measurements like this is overfilling, scooping off. That's just a really simple way. So we have the flour in there. We have some baking powder. That's gonna give us, we only have 1 egg, so this is gonna give us a little bit more lift, that nice kind of lighter texture that we want. And then some salt. You know you need the salt. It's gonna balance everything out. Put it right in there. Once all the dry ingredients are in there, we can just mix that together. Obviously do it slowly at first because you have all that flour in there, which you see it happens really quickly. So I'm gonna have the beaters. I'm gonna let that just do the work for me of getting the beaters clean. The one nice thing I like about doing a hand mixer, You can use a stand mixer, that's totally fine. It's just that way you don't have to scrape the bowls often. These you can move around and you're controlling, so you can scrape the bowl with them. Now notice the sides of the bowl. You see some flour still. You're gonna say, well, that's not fully incorporated. I will always slightly undermix anything I'm making because you don't wanna overmix it. That's when something gets tough, the crumb won't be as good. So I always finish it off at the end with just folding. And I'm gonna finish it with folding in chocolate chips. So this has a nice amount of chocolate chips in it. And we're just gonna fold those right in. And I like to fold them because, well, one, a mixer can break them up or it just doesn't work the best. It just is a nice quick way to finish off everything. Make sure it's evenly incorporated. So same if you were gonna do this with a stand mixer, I would still finish by hand. And you can see, look how beautiful that is. You have all those chocolate chips and they just have so much goodness. Now you can leave them out, but believe me, you're gonna want them in. It's just a nice simple way. So I have a buttered baking dish, and this is bars, like I said. So really these are a cakey bar, which I like. So they have like a delicious, soft, melt in your mouth texture, but they're baked, of course, in a bar pan of some type, and that will give them just the correct size. You don't want a cake size. You don't want it that thick. You want it just thick enough that it is like you can hold it like a bar, but it's almost soft enough. You want to eat it with a fork sometimes. So what I'm gonna do is just take an offset spatula, and to me that's the easiest way to make sure you can evenly distribute your batter into the corners. So we're just gonna take this and spread it out until it's even all around, because this is gonna help it bake evenly. And you can see it spreads really quickly. These to me are such a great thing. I don't know, if you're a grandma and with your grandkids, a parent with your kids, or if you're just doing like an after school program, to me this is such a quick thing you can make. They bake really quickly, they finish really easily, and they're kind of like one of those no-fail, easy to do, fun to put together, and delicious recipes that kids always love and I think really enjoy seeing it come together. I don't know, it's one of those I kind of got started on making early like that, and it was always when we had bananas that mom thought were going to go too far too quickly or something, or if she just needed something quick to take somewhere to an event. So once you have it spread out, we can just now pop these right in the oven, let them bake. We're gonna need to let them cool slightly, but then we'll make, I did mention there's a frosting, right? There's a frosting, and you're gonna want it. When the bars come out of the oven, they're nice and golden brown because of that brown sugar we put in there, but you wanna let them cool completely before you frost them. If you frost them with a cream cheese frosting, it'll just melt and be too soft because cream cheese frosting is already soft. So what I have is everyone's favorite, not everyone's, but cream cheese. It makes to me the best frosting because it has just a little bit of tang that to me is perfect with the consistency of the bananas and the flavor, and then some butter. And I just like to cut it with some butter. Obviously it's for flavor. I mean, there's a couple components that also kind of gives it a little bit of a different richness to it. So you like to cut it with that. And I'm gonna mix those together until they're, soft and combined before we add the rest, just because it makes for mixing a little bit easier. So it doesn't take long if they're, somewhat at room temperature. I don't like them too warm, as in like almost, hot, because then it almost wants to melt when you're mixing them. So what we have is that, and we're gonna just scrape it down a little bit just to make sure when we keep on mixing, it's gonna be somewhat even, which you can see how simple, and look how beautiful that is. This, some people would say, okay, that's all I need right there. So what we're gonna do to this is just flavor it a little bit. So a little bit of vanilla. Not a lot, but I do think it's kind of nice. It kind of mellows that tanginess of the cream cheese. And then we're gonna add in powdered sugar. The one thing, it's easy not to do always, but I do try to use a sifter, some type of colander, whatever you want, when you're doing your powdered sugar, because those lumps in powdered sugar, they really will kind of show up in a frosting. So I'll just put it over and then go through and make sure I get it all out. Those lumps, after you go into the work of doing all this, there's no reason to have those lumps. So we're gonna just quickly put it through, and you can see that what it will do is take away all those lumps and all those little pieces that can be in. And then you can just push those through too. But do you see as I'm doing this? Look at that colander. See all those pieces? And even though you're gonna mix it, you would think, oh, well, they'll all come out in the mixer. They don't always all come out in the mixer. You actually will be left. And the texture of the cream cheese frosting should be smooth. So at the end here, I'll just take my hand and just push it all through. And you see how it still comes out and in the bottom, and it's all soft. And that's what you want. You want that softness. So I'm just gonna set that up on here, and then very slowly at first, we're gonna mix this until it's smooth. You can see it really takes no time. Those beaters are honestly, they should just be the cooks. The person that's in the kitchen making it can just clean those off at will, because that's really kind of the treat, okay? So I'm just gonna do a final just stir for any of that powder that's up there residually. Make sure everything's mixed together. But it's a really simple, classic frosting. So we have our bars cooled, make sure they're cooled. And then we have our frosting. We're just gonna put it all on. When I was young, Mom would make these a lot during field work time, whether it was in the spring for planting or in the fall for harvest, and use these for meals that she would take out to the field to my dad. So I'm gonna just put this, and I have an offset spatula here. I just wanna spread it out somewhat evenly. Doesn't have to be perfect. And you know, this is the beauty of these. They don't have to be perfect, they're a bar. Once you cut them and slice them, no one sees what they look like. So if they look uneven, don't worry about it. Just make sure. Now you can see as they cool, they come in just a little bit from the sides. That's normal. Don't feel bad about that. But what you do want to do, especially if kids are involved here, is not have any have too much or too little frosting, because someone, I would have been this kid, would say, why does that one have more frosting? That would have been me. Or I would have been in the kitchen not telling anyone and been looking for the one with the most frosting. The ratio of the cream cheese to the butter is what makes it spread and not be too soft, but also not be too solid. So now you can just serve them up. I'm gonna cut like one row here across. These bring back so many memories, as so much food does, but they're such a simple, delicious classic. Then you take a spatula. Oh yeah, look at that. That's perfect, soft, good texture. You see the chocolate chips. What more could you ask for? I love this because I love the crumb. You know it's gonna have good flavor. I want a little bit of color on that. Has good texture. You can tell it's still moist in the middle, which is the important part. Go through. This is just perfect. Kind of melt in your mouth. I think what is not surprising about this, because obviously, but you may be pleasantly surprised at the beautiful banana forward flavor. And the vanilla helps, but you really get a nice strong banana flavor from this. Everything else kind of just like complements the banana, helps it come out, even the cream cheese. You're not like thinking cream cheese, you're thinking that banana flavor is amazing. Ripe bananas help too, because it has that sugar content, brings up that flavor. So what do I hope you do with these? I hope you make yourself a treat, make your neighbor a treat, make a loved one in your life a treat, or you know what? Make a new friend with these, because that's what they'll do. So share this recipe around when you share these videos. It of course helps me, but it also helps everyone else see how easy and doable these things are to do at home, to make good food, to enjoy it. Check my website, wiseguy.com, for this recipe and all my other recipes. Until next time, it might be time to go buy bananas, because you're gonna wanna make these.